Hello, everyone. So today is another meetup here in Andersen in Krakow. Today's session going to be the second of mine, and it's also related to the bunch of stuff I can tell you about. So this is kind of integrated approach into software development. And the second topic here is about estimation. You may find the first one in YouTube here on the same channel, I suppose. And estimation is not something that, like, I suppose most of you worked with. So that's why I want to bring here the vision that I built through this all years, and how it works today, at least in projects where I participate. So this is me. If some of you don't know me, I'm here about 17 years for now. Worked in different positions, different types of projects and domains, in different teams, size of team, and so on. That's why I think my experience can be applicable here. Or maybe I just spent these years doing nothing. This is also something that helps me saying things that it works, at least for me. Anyway, so today's agenda is try to dive into the topic what the estimation is, what it means, at least in the scope of this meetup, cases that I have in my life, the drivers, what drives us to motivate, what drives us to estimate things, and then the model that is in core of the approach. And approach itself, advanced techniques or advanced cases, limitation of the approach, of course, because not everything is applicable everywhere. And the last is, I think, the answers to the cases using these methods or methods. So you know about me, and I want to know at least something about you. So please raise a hand who is software engineering, QA engineer, DevOps. Okay, so 4. Okay, 5. Yep, right. So is there any project managers here? Okay, nice. It's also for you. Maybe there is Scrum Masters. Okay, fine. That's great. Anybody else, like architects, whatever? Nobody. Okay, that's me. Then let's start. I always like to start with definition, because definition is always that you can work with. At least this wording can bring you really good depth into the topic. I highlighted these two words because, from my point of view, this is what connect estimation is like kind of something that we do every day, not just for software development, with information technology. And this is prediction and planning is really close to some of IT stuff, at least from like architecture things. And I will give this like vision about how it is connected a bit later. So we want to estimate things, different things in the project, because we want to plan it. Otherwise, you don't need to plan. Otherwise, you can simply do things like people do in Kanban, or they like estimate it, or let's say monitor things after they do them. But anyway, there is some kind of estimation and planning process behind the Kanban. I will bring like few examples of that later. Okay, and another stuff is the definition in Agile. And I really like that they bring word effort here, because like sometimes we do not estimate just effort. But since Agile technique is related to the closest thing to the ground, like groundwork, the engineers that they worked on daily basis, this is the main thing that we think about estimation where they work. But things is not so obvious as they are in this definition, I suppose, because otherwise you won't be here. You will understand it like it is written. That's why we need to reveal the mystery behind estimation. So this, like, maybe you can name some of the estimation techniques. Any ideas? Okay. Other stuff? Okay. Surprise me. Okay. Yes, right.
Heuristical historical database techniques.
I think I place it into one bullet point here. So first of all, yeah, for sure, everyone knows about story points. In poker planning as well, you forget about the next part. This is every Scrum Master likes, because this is numbers, Fibonacci sequence. They don't know about Fibonacci sequence, the basement of that, but they like, because it's really cool. I know. I really like Fibonacci sequence as well, especially when I ask to output Fibonacci sequence in interview for developers. T-shirt site. Quite good technique from my point of view. Analogy, which is expert or thumb rule, mostly. Dot voting as well. It's not so popular, but it also exists. Yep. Yeah. Affinity mapping and bucket system, blah, 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 so many things. 3-point method.
3-point is what I'm mentioning, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I won't touch this one, because I just want you to see how many things here. But yeah, you may quite be surprised what people think about one of this technique, which they think is misleading, unclear, focusing, and other stuff. Because if so many people won't think about this technique this way, you won't be here, I suppose, as well, because you want to know answer. And the answer is there is no golden hammer in estimation. Though I would try to bring one here on the table. At least it's work as a transformer and can transform in different things. Because in our case, most of the estimation techniques is really expensive. You remember many hours in sprint planning and sprint backlog refinement session, and in the end they don't work. You simply, like, this joke about not planned work. Planned work takes 2 times more than it is planned, but if it's not planned, it takes 3 times more. So maybe we can bring a bit more accuracy into estimation to make it less expensive, maybe more useful. And to start doing that, I would like to name where I worked with estimation. So you can have an overview on the scope of the other part of this meetup. First of all is estimate a task in the iteration backlog. First, like the smallest one, sure. The next one is product backlog item. I wouldn't like to name it as user story, because user story is just one of the product backlog item. They differs because task is just a small step for one person to do, while product backlog item generally in Scrum guide is one thing to do that brings business value. Most of the thing involves different people to work on, because it should be cross-functional and bring real value. Lots of people violate this rule for sure, because otherwise we won't have technical tasks or technical user story. I really like this name. It's like oxymoron. It shouldn't exist, but it exists anyway. Then estimate team backlog for the next quarter. Quite bigger thing. MVP, of course, because discovery phases require that for architect, or let's say lead engineer, to estimate things for the MVP and for the product. And product can be much bigger than just half a year. It can take like 1 year or more, and involves much more things, not just engineering stuff. You may wonder, in core, all these things may have the same methodology to estimate, but the same methodology may be not so good for everything. What drives us to estimate things? Because if you want to ask us these questions, what is beyond our like theoretical knowledge, like we're all people, and we are driven not by rational things, but some emotions. And emotions actually stands from Greek, as far as I understand, emotion, what drives us, what moves us. And this what moves us, let's say, what software developers, why they estimate things, just from my experience here. And you may disagree with that things, but yeah, I think it's useful to understand the difference from the point of view of different people involved in the estimation process, because it produces conflict between people. First of all, we need to have this time for us to implement. Like, otherwise, they will say, okay, you said that 2 days, now you spend 4 days for that. Why? We would like to like have some free space to do as a developer. For sure, we don't like to get a mess with anyone else, because this is so many time I saw that software developers is driven to give higher numbers just because they don't want to have troubles. And of course, if it is like established process, we want to make it better than last time, because last time, let's say, we introduced too much technical debt. We haven't covered with unit tests. We didn't like integrate it properly, and so on and so on. What drives manager? First of all, to do what is promised, because you shouldn't estimate things and say, I will do it in 2 days, unless you won't do it. Like, we need to do it the other way. The second is to allow team to work properly, so they won't like burn out much fast. And then for sure, customer, it should be transparent for customer, the estimation we give. Otherwise, they will like start micromanagement. It happens in different cultures, in different projects, when, like, let's say, customer architect or product owner come and say, this is not one story point, you know, or this is, you said that it's 5 story points, it's just 1 or half. I don't believe you, and so on, because they don't believe, they do not trust in estimation. So that's why manager wants to make this estimation process and make it like working, for sure, to meet deadline and be within budget. To do better than last time, maybe better than last project, or better than the previous sprint. And then the team should take responsibility for the work. It's a funny thing, because manager don't want to take responsibility. Not always, but I saw so many managers that actually do not want to take responsibility for that. And that what actually everyone does. You know, somebody doesn't think about that I really need to do estimation, or I shouldn't, just because I did it and everybody do. Motivation of Scrum Master. I like these guys, you know, I love when Scrum Master exists in my team, because they do estimation only because the Scrum guide says this, because this is essential part. You know, otherwise it's Kanban, it's not Scrum. And you need to draw fancy charts, otherwise it's not a Scrum. You won't give a business value if you do not draw these fancy charts. I did it myself. I played the Scrum Master role. I love charts. And of course, everybody should participate in estimation, because you build team, and it increases involvement. You know, this part is actually brings business value, because people start thinking about they can like contribute into process, and avoid complex mathematical calculation. That's what I like, because it seems, from my point of view, you may disagree, of course, this is normal, that people who go to Scrum work and get certification, they are not good in engineering for any reason, but they want to have good work, good job, so they come to IT and get this certificate, and for some reason they don't like math. So that's why estimation techniques should be applicable for Scrum Master who works with that. Otherwise, complex mathematical calculation simply drive Scrum Master out of the process. Why? You may ask question, because Scrum Master should just be a ceremony master. But it seems like lots of the people, lots of the team are driven by Scrum Master like managers. because people in team doesn't know about Scrum at all. So they need to establish the process, and in the end, it's not establishing the process, not coaching the team, but really managing the team. So what motivates customer to do estimation? Of course, this is about budget, scope, deadline, whatever. About bosses, they also have bosses. They need to communicate with them, and most of the cases, customer need to say, okay, we will do this, and just give us money. That's why they need this estimation. That's why they ask. But this sounds a bit different. This is not about a software developer. You may find software developer think about task, not the project, but also estimation to get things done. Because if you won't give estimation, they think that you won't do this, and actually within the scope and budget and other stuff. And of course, they need to see if it's have a right pace. If you estimate things it doesn't change or it changed as it expected, so they need to have a safeguard and see if they need to change something. They go, let's say, go to big bosses and say we need to cut the scope, or we need to bring more people here, and so on, or move deadlines, this triangle of project management. The same things apply to them, and if they have no estimations, they cannot do this. What motivates outsourced company? They also involved into this process. Otherwise, they won't be estimation and discovery phase or pre-sale. So they want to give customer this budget, the timeline of the project, and of course they need to sell. Or so and team should do this what they sold anyway. And you may find that it comes to conflict when a person comes to the discovery phase and say, I'm say lead software engineering and will estimate it like that, and they say they won't buy it. Let's cut it here. So that's why it's moving things and people involved there. That's why you need to find the best way to communicate in the same language. That's why the same model is valuable here, because people want to know from top to the bottom how it works. Otherwise, they will simply try to talk about words, but not numbers. But numbers are involved. So the last stuff maybe here in the introduction is I found that nobody cares about when you start. They want to be sure that you finish it in time. But between finish and start, there is time. You need to estimate an amount of resources to be involved. Actually, if you put priorities, you might find that you need to start low priority thing right now, but not high priority, because otherwise you won't finish high priority thing in the end. That's why priority maybe doesn't drive us into making a sprint backlog, but the final priorities that we need to hit, you need to think about it, because there is lots of different the sequence of steps you need to get in by the end of the thing. If you want to have a good security, you need to establish infrastructure, then you need to define login, then you need to put authorization model, cross-cutting things between components, etc., etc. This is different steps and different people involved, and if you want to do it in the first, bring DevOps here, you won't hit this in the end. And estimation works on different things. So we estimate a level of effort, required resources, estimated time arrival, cost, risks, and different scale. So that's why different things doesn't work on different scale. So you cannot use story points when you estimate in product lifetime things. It doesn't work. You have no team. You have nothing to, let's say, okay, we run 3 sprints that now we understand what's 3 story points. You haven't done 3 sprints. You need to do it before you actually bring something to the table. And we need to bring the model. First of all, because estimation is about numbers, and numbers is mathematics. And mathematics is about modeling things. We cannot work with real objects. We want to predict real objects and go to the future. It's about approximation, extrapolation, and so on. And model should meet some criteria, just from my point of view. So it should be verifiable. You can say that it works. It works because of that. It should explain why it works this way. The second, it should have predictive power. If you find that your model of estimation doesn't predict anything, it doesn't work. It's rubbish. And the third part is that most of the estimation techniques sacrifice first two because of the third one. It has to be agile. So it has adapt things, but maybe it doesn't adapt. It's not. Let's say they are not costly. They are cheap to be implemented. But yeah, if it doesn't predict it, just the technique you do, the ceremony or waste according to lean software development. And to understand why it works this or other way, we need to start mathematical things. Because scale is something that link numbers with the real world. Scales are different. Like scientists of the past, they categorize it 4 different types of scale. The first one is nominal, which goes to two types of operation, equal or not equal. And only these two things are applicable here. The next one is ordinal. You can say like this is less or more. This is t-shirt size, estimation, and other stuff. Now, obviously, t-shirt size here, not for estimation, but real world. You cannot say that XS size plus XS size is medium, and so on. So only these two operations are applicable. The third one is interval. Now you can do plus and minus. You can say how many degrees between 0 degrees temperature and 45 degrees. So now this operation is applicable. You cannot do interval between ordinal. And the last one is mostly used in natural sciences, ratio. That actually we totally mix things when we are thinking about numbers. Some numbers goes to interval, some to ratio. And this is crucial. That's where actually most of the people confuses when they work with numbers, especially when they compare work with ordinal type. But what is like? Let's categorize the t-shirt size estimation. Obviously, this is ordinal. We can say what is more, what is less, but we cannot combine things. We cannot say how much t-shirt size things we can do within sprint. We can just simply guess. This is fine. This worked with the limitation, for sure. The things I love really about story points. Story points, at least according to definition, works with risk, complexity, and repetition. That's what it addresses. Otherwise, we combine these three things. This is power of story points, you know, because otherwise it's just repetition. It doesn't work. But what is three of them for the scale? Any guess? Okay. Risks, complexity, and repetition goes to what scale type? The answer is you cannot plus risks. Too small risk is not medium. Yep, that's the answer. And like if it's ordinal, then story points is ordinal. You cannot plus story points, never. But this is what actually people do. This is why it doesn't work. This is why velocity is not capacity. Because the same thing for me is like you cannot plus average speed. You know, the same thing with story points, because otherwise, let's say most of the tasks are simple, but there is lots of risks. But now you're combining risks and total risk. Sure, it works, and I will say when it works and when it doesn't. Or let's say different approach works. I love story points. I really want to work on the project where story points is applicable. It's not where I work most of the time, but help. I want to thank one Scrum master who pointed me to this thought when story points works much better than others. Level of effort. What do you think? It's ratio, interval, or ordinal? Interval. If you forgot about mythical man-month book, it's ratio, because it's like nine women give a birth in 1 month, one child, so you can divide. Let's imagine that that's this ratio. Why it is? Because this stuff from this book, from the Brooks book and Brooks law, will be addressed the other way. So why we need ratio? Because we need to divide task, right? So we want to add more people. That's why we want to multiply. We need to understand how team will act if there is no lead in the team. We need to understand lots of things that we are not good with, just plus and minus. That's why I think the level of effort should be somehow elaborated a bit more. Level of effort of what? That's where come the work we do. It's a Sinethian framework in different 4 types of things we do. That's not so popular, but it says what type of work we actually do in real world. When we do clear things, we just simply categorize when we know what to do, right? So we understand, like, do this way or do that way. This is mostly about when you need to, let's say, select a database based on things like, you need to do this. Okay, I will choose key value data store or data lake. Or let's say I will choose this framework. Let's say we have in company how to select, let's say, front-end framework. This is clear task for me. Like, you go to a resource manager and ask who is free. And then you come back and say, okay, we have only Angular right now. And if customer is okay with that, you go with Angular. Maybe you can choose React other way. No, .NET, let's say the same thing like for backend. For the core or for the complicated, you need to analyze. But anyway, after analysis, you may bring the proper solution. In most cases, it's like for linked tasks when you need to develop an algorithm. For most of the thing, you may find the best solution for the algorithm. You don't need to understand. The complex is most of the tasks we deal with. We need to probe, sense, and respond. So we do not plan things. So the things that we can plan is complicated and clear, not complex and chaotic. So that's why not everything can be estimated or cannot be estimated with the same accuracy in big scale. That's why if you cannot estimate thing, you shouldn't estimate. That's what actually brings this controversial vision on estimation. Because in Kanban, we do not estimate. In Scrum, we estimate. And both technique works because first, mostly work with things that cannot be estimated, and the other which can. Like the ratio, the part of this which goes more to the particular project or type of work you do with your team. Let's say I really like the project where DevOps team, dedicated DevOps team, they work in Kanban because DevOps team works in Kanban. They cannot plan. They simply tasks go to them, and they need to implement it in 1-2 days. The support team also cannot work in Scrum because it's useless. Like just things come, and they need to work with them. But people who works in development, they can work in Kanban. How? You may wonder what they do actually. What they actually don't do with estimation. This is interesting thing. So we can estimate implementation task. Obviously, engineering work, designing test cases, automated tests. This is actually a thing that brings not maybe direct business value, but without it, business value doesn't exist at all. So this is an essential step in every product backlog item that brings business value. But you cannot estimate how much time it will take in meetings, because otherwise you will say always, okay, let's plan grooming every week for the Wednesday. It will take half an hour for the team to implement, to conduct, right? No, it doesn't work this way. If task is really complicated, you won't fit into half an hour. You will discuss, and discuss. Because otherwise, why you need to discuss things? Because you want to solve problems. And let's say designer work, it works in iteration. You need to show one prototype, another prototype. Maybe you can like hit the target from the first attempt. Maybe you need 5 attempts to do this. Or maybe it requires discussion with someone, or you need to wait a response from someone. Let's say you need a resource from like specific picture that matches marketing because you work on landing page, right? And so on and so on. Related things semi is refactoring to working on technical that can be or cannot different from different perspective. Let's say if you're approaching particular thing right now, you will work. Maybe you can say how much time it will take for you to refactor a small piece of code. But if you say, okay, this is technical debt, I need to refactor it, it will take 3 days, and then you get back to this half a year after, and it will take 3 weeks now because everything is changed. So you cannot estimate it properly. That's the thing about the model, and that comes to the idea of ideal man hours. Because if we want to introduce some man hours that works, they need to be ideal. Others doesn't work. Mythical doesn't work. We all know. So ideal man hours shouldn't include meetings. When we calculate, it's because meetings we cannot estimate. It should be only work that can be planned. Of course, we cannot plan that we will fix 5 bugs in a sprint, because we will fix so many bugs that come. So we will, let's say, fix severe bugs, only critical. Yep. But we do not plan to fix a specific amount of bugs. We might plan, let's say, to fix to spend on bugs some limited amount of time, but this is different thing. We're not estimating, we're planning. And we need to consider qualification of the team members. Different people have different qualification, otherwise we won't have titles like junior, middle, senior, etc. This answers why the same task can be implemented by junior 3 times more than by senior. So let's calculate team capacity, because once we estimated things, level of effort for the task, or anything in my ideal man hours, we need to compare with the team capacity. So of course, this is works per iteration, working hours. People tend to go to vacation, got sick. That's why it differs from iteration to iteration. And then we need to multiply it by meeting rate, multiply by planned work rate, and the last is qualification, and have total of them. So this is your team capacity. So you now know how much exact time people will spend on implementation, not other stuff. This is complex formula, but it works. Qualification is like for different. Yeah, I'll show an example. Okay, so for the junior, junior doesn't spend too much time on meeting, right? So they mostly work on the code. They do not spend on not planned work because they are not good at bug fixing and troubleshooting. So they mostly do real work, but their qualification, according to at least empirical data I gathered through my careers, 0.3. It's like 3 times less than the senior. Middle as qualifications 70% to senior, somewhere here, and you may see like they spend more time on meetings because they need to discuss how things has to be done. So they may fix bugs more, and this is like amount of time, like ideal man hours in 2 weeks. The senior spend more time on meetings because they need to communicate with people, they need to coach juniors and so on, and lead maybe 1.5 much than senior. I saw one person who was twice more effective than the average senior. It was really fun because he spent so much time on meetings, so then he produced kind of equal work to senior. So he, if he worked the same time as a junior, he may implement stuff himself. Maybe not. And then the team capacity for like kind of example, right? So if you have one lead and one middle and two juniors, some kind of average thing for the backend, let's say, or front end, not average. This is quite a big thing for backend. Anyway, so this is 60 hours real one, and the capacity will be using those numbers is like 30%. You know, just 30% of your time you see in front, you will sit in front of your computer and write code that you understand. Other time you will talk, think. Bug fix, of course, you will do support stuff, but you won't produce business value. This is kind of shocking thing because like customers don't like this, seeing this thing. This kind of not obvious. What goes out on the top of the model? So you can work with working days now. So if you have these numbers, you can take like qualification, something doesn't change a lot. And other rates, you can measure them according to work logged, or let's say you understand how many hours is spent during the sprint iteration, and you can correct this data, right? So if the next sprint lead come like changes, okay, sure, we can separate right now backend front end. This is also crucial because there is a different load on the team. I always found that like if there is more stress on backend, we need to understand it's like more tasks go to backend. So you need to more people here or there, or there is a task, like say we need to make logging. This is mostly backend, right? There is notification that goes to backend. So you need to feed this story that goes to mostly backend or mostly to front end.
It's not an agile setup, right? If the teams are built like this, they will never, each of them will never provide a business value.
No. That is part of the one team. In agile, this is cross-functional team. That's why they exist. Otherwise, let's say we might find put DBA here. No, this is old school approach when DBA is a different department, and you cannot go further. So you need to come to them 1 month before you start doing things and say, guys, I need database, please do it. And I really like the stuff when we miss a lead. So when lead come to vacation, we can multiply our ideal man hours because people will simply won't work at the same speed of rate because they are not managed by anyone. So the method. Okay, method. Method is summarizing things from the model. Actually, first of all, we need to separate risk management process from estimation. Risk management is quite interesting part, much more complicated than estimation itself. And I could kind of different angle how you can look at things. And once you understand your risk management process, you establish strategies, maybe some tasks come to estimation. But if you do things like Story Points does, okay, it works. In case if, let's say, I will reveal this mystery, if it goes to definition that the user story is informal task to do. When it's formal, it doesn't work. When it's formal, then it can be assessed against these formal things. When it's informal, you need to spend time to formalize it. The informalization of the user story come to the sprint. When it's formal, it's already out of the sprint, and you can assess it. So maybe you need more accurate estimation. So about risk, yeah, you need to separate it. Then you need to separate plannable work from other types of work. So BA shouldn't count. QA manual tests shouldn't. I don't know, technical design shouldn't, and so on and so on. But when you work on the exact things like groundwork, coding, that's what matters, because you understand it, you can do it. Otherwise, it's like go in iteration. More and more things you need to, like one iteration of bug fixing, another iteration of bug fixing, and so on. This one is really hard to estimate. Then define rates and adjust them if you see they doesn't fit. This is really cool part because you may negotiate with your customer or product owner that they say that need to spend much time on quality. So you spend more time on bug fixing, and you may find that you spend 40% of your coding time on bug fixing. Because why? Because they're motivated by both scope and quality. They cannot manage these two things that they become in conflict there. So you can come to them. So you guys see this is like 50% according to statistics. People spending too much. Why? Because we tend to fix low priority minor bugs because you asked. And we do not do things. If we remove this stuff, according to, again, statistics, we can reduce it from 50% to 15 or 20, let's say. And it will increase our capacity, team capacity for planet work this way. And if they trust, because they trust in numbers are quite transparent here, they will trust you working with this way. I have this conversation 8 times, maybe, different projects. Most of the time I succeeded. Or maybe not from the first attempt, but yeah, when you bring numbers to the table, it works. You cannot bring story points because it's not numbers, it's ordinals. Consider vacation and sick leaves. That also help you. Again, other techniques with t-shirts, let's say, doesn't work with vacations. Then estimate tasks in ideal man hours. How to do this is to say people, you need to learn your team. This is not something that is starting from the beginning. You need to understand, like you understand the task, how much time you will spend in front of your computer to write it. I was working with a UI UX designer. He was asked to estimate how much time he needs to spend on this or that screen. And I cannot estimate this. Like, okay. Let's imagine you have all answers you need. How much time it will take? Okay, this is like 4 hours for me to finish it. Okay, then you start asking questions, and then you have 4 hours. Because you cannot estimate like things that you cannot. Calculate team capacity. So this is formula that exists, like, and consider additional rates when they fit. Additional rates, there are many, not just like missing team lead. There are many, and I will touch them in advanced section. We have finished part related to the iteration planning and estimation in iterations, but there is much more than this scale. Like you have a quarter planning, like PI planning, and so on. So most of this time you also need estimation, or you need estimation for the MVP scope. This is crucial for pre-sale, let's say, and for discovery phases. Otherwise, you may fail because you gave wrong estimation. For sure that there is one person who read this stuff many years ago about mythical man hours. That's why I want to address this part here, because ideal man hours doesn't clearly address this part. So first of all, mythical man hours, man month discuss thing about team composition, right? And we cannot simply add more people and say it will be done faster. We need to think how teams should work, like in operating theater, right? One person is leading and doing most of the stuff, and other helps. That's how actually IT sphere is built for years. And the person who wrote this, Frederick Brooks, was right, and now it works the same way. Concurrency rate, critical chains, and other stuff I will touch in the next slides. So first is the team composition. We can find what our target team capacity, right? So we can say these ideal man hours we want to spend every iteration. It can be done. Like when you have like your tasks estimated this way, maybe it's rough estimation, right? So the person come to discovery phase, okay, I will read it, I will give this estimation, maybe not man hours, man days, but this is actually the same if they're ideal. So you have a total, you divide it to the amount of iterations, so you have this target capacity. Then you need to understand how many big features you want to take into iteration. Most of the time, For the small team, for regular team, it's one big feature, maybe two. I saw team who take 2 features. So I would say that they are mapped to the senior amount. So these people should lead these features. Minor features is something that like one person can do. They are small. That's why I would map them into middle engineers amount. Why? Because middle engineers doesn't possess enough skills to lead a junior, or you have a mess after that. And juniors is limited by skills of your seniors. If they can lead more people or less, then you may like take more or less people like from this amount. So you shouldn't take all seniors. This is a really bad idea when you say, I need in my team only seniors. Yes, every client wants this because they don't know about operational theta rule from Frederick Brooks because it's too old. It was even printed, it's not a PDF last time. Then calculate actual team capacity. And of course, you need to play with numbers, right? Because I once was asked to reduce the deadline whole time frame from 15 months to 7, and it ended up to 34 people in the team. And you need to consider communication overheads. This is also a crucial thing. Example. Sure. We can let's start with 120. It's quite a big thing, you may see. So big features is 3. We are really ambitious. We want to run fast. Minor features, somewhere close to that. And lead is 1 lead. Sure, should be accountable. 1 person. Then seniors is 2 people because we can consider lead as another person who will lead a big feature. Not so much people in the team. And there will be middle, 3 person, and juniors something close to that because this is enough. It is enough for us. But this is already 10 people for backend team. That's where you find, okay, I don't want to have 120 ideal man hours per sprint because it's unmanageable. Or what is feature lead, or you can build at scale your agile team and so on. This is kind of technique that you need to know before you start doing quite a big team. If your team is not ready for that, you shouldn't start. Or you need to go to microservices, and then you multiply by complexity of microservices, communication between them, and you need to know how to divide one story between 2 microservices because they will deliver it independently. There is lots of troubles inside it, right? That's how you talk with the customer when they say, okay, let's move the deadline. We cannot move the deadline because it's limited by the team capacity. The concurrency rate. This is also the other stuff that I always consider when I plan things in the iteration, because too many people, it is for one feature to work on, it's too crowded when you have 3 people working on the same thing or even more. Sure, this one, okay, this is in Russian, strange. Anyway, efficiency is written there. One thing can make less severe this rate is if you're really considering a continuous integration approach. The real continuous integration, not that everybody knows from courses. Continuous integration means you integrate your code as fast as possible. As fast as possible is really come into conflict with the idea that you should create pull request only when the feature is ready. This totally doesn't work with continuous integration. And people tend to think about pull requests should contain everything, including refactoring on the code because there is a Boy Scout rule, etc., etc. Especially when we're talking about guys in interview, what is the good code? The code is covered with tests. Ta-dam! And you cannot integrate your code as fast as possible. So if you want to work as fast as possible, you may divide it in 4 people One is like preparing database, another one preparing API, the third one writing logic, 1, 2, 3, and so on. The fourth one writing tests. It can be done in parallel if they are committing things as fast as possible. If they are not, okay, you will do it sequentially, and sequentially is much cheaper to do it by one person. That's where it comes to not efficient, crowdy feature. Concurrency rate can be applied to estimation for the task. So you give estimation in ideal man-hours, so then you divide to this rate because it goes down. That's why you need to divide. More people works on that. So once you have your sprint candidates ready, then you can say, okay, I expect that this one story will be done by 3 persons. So then you divide. Doesn't work. Okay. Anyway, you may go there. It doesn't work. Yep. So that's where you can do this. I do not do this personally myself because most of this discussion comes like, you shouldn't bring only 2 features into the sprint because it's too crowded to work on 2. Let's take more minor features to work on. The last one, the next one is critical change. It's quite complicated problem, and it deserves a separate meetup for that. I brought the example of epics, even epics like this is kind of complex things. And critical chain is the chain of work that can be done only sequentially. In the beginning, when you plan or estimate MVP project, there is a kind of work that depends on each other. And you cannot simply start doing anything. We tend to think about Scrum Agile approach that you just pick one item from the backlog. Or your product owner is quite smart to give you only those things that are not dependent on anything and is needed. And again, if you remember about you need to start things before you finish, they maybe not doesn't possess enough knowledge because dependency is mostly technical, not business related. They may be extracted from the business perspective, but not always. Because, like, let's say, as I said, the lovely example is when we start with the Epic 1, and Epic 1 most of the time is login. And you cannot start doing login from the scratch in sprint 0, sprint 1, because you have no infrastructure. Infrastructure is not here, but for authorization, you need it. So you maybe start with something else that doesn't require infrastructure authorization. Maybe it requires a bit later. Okay, but like so many projects start with login, so I don't know if they do this way. And critical chains are quite needed to how to work with them. So you define high-level scope. You shouldn't define in really details, but just because you will simply be drowned by details. Then you group it, again, not to work with lots of things. Otherwise, dependencies are really a mess. And then you may analyze the dependencies, what goes from one point to another. You need it not to be precise. You need to understand the time frame, the minimal time frame that will work with that sequence. So extract the chains and then build roadmap. As I said, it deserves a separate meeting, but the technique, when you are working with estimation, it also drives how you then map it into the iterations, how it is done one by one. This example used t-shirts, t-shirt estimation. Different colors says about different types of t-shirt size. And I tried to map how many things we can do within one sprint. And this kind of, every column is one iteration. It's like simplifying things for 2 sprints within 1 month. And then I have a load profile. That was interesting for me because I want to like say how how it's stress to the team to do this or that stuff. And with this approach, when you understand chains, the only thing that you can discuss with your customer is how you can swap things, and you can show them that this one cannot be planned earlier. You may move them. That brings depth understanding for the customer, and they will start trusting your approach, how it works, because they see why it cannot be done. Because this is clear dependency, here it is. And because team will be stressed. So the load profile reflects the scope, and because we want to deal with critical chain and don't want to overload the team. And team overload is a tool for the manager to work on. Why? It is, if you know, like I don't remember this thing from the Scrum one, storming, norming, what? Performing, yeah. So they, I like norming and storming doing with overload when the people working with together. So they understand, okay, this is really good pace, we need to do this and we can do this. So you bring a bit more, and then they reach their level of what they can do. Then you can bring them 20% more. Then they found that they actually can do more because they get rid of things that they don't need to. That's where they get rid of wastes, right? And then you drop this because you shouldn't ever do this overload every sprint. But with this profile, you can say, okay, this works. And once you see that the team start doing things like a bit relaxed, maybe there will be the case when you need to implement things more. You may consider doing the second time, it doesn't work a lot because a team already built. So they know how to interact with each other. They know how to deal with overloads and tight work. Then you say, okay, we'll do it with the same pace. And team profile doing with onboarding, because stuff like you cannot start doing from the scratch, you cannot bring everyone to you. That's just theory. Now you know why. Maybe you can. So that's when you're onboarding everyone at the same time, maybe it's much cheaper than onboard one by one. Depending on the culture of the people, of course, because like if you have a lead who can build the culture in the team, so you need to bring lead and some people first, and then everybody else that come will adopt. If you bring one person who have a vision how to build team and lots of people that has not, there will be too much work for this person to build the right atmosphere, right culture.
This number both profile shows the previous chart, how it's calculated.
Yeah, there is, I calculated, like I assigned specific numbers for this t-shirt since I said that some of these big features come to L, and minor and small minor features come to M and S. And I thought myself, okay, it comes to like this amount of days, this amount of days, and put it there. I've never tried to put kind of. I took this one. I also considered communication overload because too many tasks is also not so good. Because this operational things related to task switching is also a bad thing. So that's why you always need to balance between less tasks and more tasks. And I found like, okay, this is more or less working. Of course, when you go to the tactical level, when you need to plan sprint, it will, let's say, change. But why we need to do this stuff? We need to do this stuff to understand how much people we need and when. And bring arguments why you cannot finish on May. Obviously, you cannot. Like, even if we stress people, let's say in April, it won't work. And even if you see like in May and June, it drops, you cannot fit the last iteration to the May. That's where you can discuss things. And I found it really useful for both parties, for the manager and for the customer, to understand how they can play with this when they swap things and like put in this or that.
But it means that this chart, like this roadmap was like first input. I mean, someone said, okay, I need this feature in March, this in April, this in May, right?
No. Of course, it can be done like that. When you say, okay, I need this feature in March, yep, then you have this critical chain analysis. You understand these things you need to bring here. You try to build it like from the highest priority, you put it like that, and then you try to fit other things. If you cannot, you say, okay, it doesn't fit. Like, we need to change something. We need to drop. So
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, please go.
Why here like, we sum only 1, 2, 4, like okay, 7 things, and it sum up to 1425. And here we have like a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's less.
Yeah.
I don't feel how we calculate this.
Right. So this stuff was a funny thing because customer promised that we will double the team. This is like the beginning of the story. They say we'll double the team. Okay, you will double. That's fine. And violet color comes to Excel. For me, it was for the one team the only task that we can deliver. So it should stop there, but then come L, and there is 2 L's, which is in blue, and green comes to medium. In May, there is just one large task. Not so many medium, like 4 of them, and others quite small. They just work on something, like really small stuff. That's why there are too many of them. Sure, that's why there is stress on the 8, because of these 2 L's. And less stress before that in March. For sure, this is a model. We always modeling these numbers and thinking about how they actually interact with the reality. But if you, let's say, working with things that you cannot plus, minus, and multiply, then you cannot work with this stuff at all. That's the thing. So I stopped like with onboarding and, of course, with offboarding. This is also required because you need to know when you need to rotate people, change them. And what I really like here is like maybe you don't need to have lots of QA in the beginnings, and you need to bring more and more people in the end. So this is also load depending on how much features you will have. It is also discussable because different approaches says different things when you need to do manual QA or automated QA. But anyway, this is not closely related. So the next one is waiting for response. I tend to do waiting for the response for communication for tasks when I do MVP planning to estimate this potential waiting for some features. As I said, if you need to wait for material for your landing page, then you need to communicate it with the marketing team. Most of the time, it takes time for you to think of. If tasks require additional work with some other team, integration, right? If we want to, let's say, try probe things, so we need to talk a lot, right? So this is why I bring it within the estimation process with level of effort. So we calculate max and sum waiting response. These 2 things like a minimum and maximum, because max means that you run all communication in parallel, right? And sum, if you do it in sequential thing, and we need to find it somewhere in between. The pessimistic is 0, 2 when you do everything like sequentially, and 0, 8 is when you mostly can parallelize these communication things. It doesn't work this way. So you can play with this part as well when you plan things and say, okay, there is too many communication customers, too many. You see, we estimated this stuff, exact numbers for each feature. And please provide us possibility to speed up this communication, because you see, when I drop this from, let's say, increase it from 0, 2 to, let's say, the 0, 6, see, saves us 1 month, like, or half a month. Like, oh yeah, you're a magician one. Like, you give them motivation to help you to work with this stuff, because otherwise you cannot. Yeah, and then you calculate it this way. Of course, as I said, this is not 100% accurate. It's much accurate than the other stuff because they do not estimate this most of the time. And it brings you, like, you need to add it to estimation time arrival, estimated time arrival. It's like your deadline based on level of effort plus this communication stuff. And considering risk. This is most complicated table I do. There is like tasks, and I estimate front end, back end with regional. PO means front end original, and R comes stands for front end risk. I categorize it by different risks, and like you may see that some of the some things much risky on back end rather than on front end, and so on. So you can calculate risks here. It doesn't relate to real risk management plan, but this brings you another dimension instead of doing pessimistic, optimistic estimation. Why I don't like it personally, you may not agree with me, of course, because most of the time people tend to say, okay, I have one number and pessimistic is 20% more and optimistic 20% less. So they simply mock it. People, it's really hard to bring these two numbers. If you can, that's fine. If not, I would suggest to go on this approach because it has additional benefit. First of all, we can, this starts this another way. We can define categories in different risks from 0, 50, 130 for unknown, 300 for unknown. This is example. Of course, you can bring other things and like divide them different way. You can estimate risk category for each feature. Don't make it too like different, and so then calculate additional risk. So total risk added. This is what you can see here on the on this table on the low part, and say, okay, we have this amount of risk, and is it acceptable for you, customer, to come with this amount of risk or not? We still come with the total as a target, but risk is something that we can consider. And then we say, okay, we can work on this risk. That's why I bring this M column, which is modifier. And when we define the risk management plan, we say, okay, I want to work on this stuff, this is unknown, on this stuff, because it brings a lot of risk here. So we can say, this one brings the biggest risk. This one, so we have a priority. We define the plan and say, okay, after this plan, we can apply modifiers and say how it will reduce the risk after we apply this risk management plan. We cannot say, okay, we are optimistic and say, we will do everything. Before you do everything, you need to provide the plan how you will do it. Then you apply modifiers that maybe drop risks to 0 if you are too optimistic, or maybe you can have it like 20% from the original part or something. That's bring another, like the second vision on how much risk you will bring with this particular plan. And they may decide, okay, it's acceptable or not, or maybe we need to increase more. This risk management plan may come with additional materials. So, like you agree with doing this and that stuff. So let's say with a business analyst, start as if you find lots of things has to be defined, you may start with a 0 sprint. And now you have real priorities for your business analysts to work on. Otherwise, business analysts start working on first epic, which is login. And you will fail because you haven't reduced your risk. Then, yeah, as I said, it will reduce your scope. Limitation. Of course, this method is limited. First of all, the basic model is works when the user story is formal. I found that lots of companies that doesn't understand Agile, they tend to specify all the stuff in product backlog item. Myself, I did it because it was a healthcare project. We need to define things. We did demo scenario. We did acceptance criteria. Some of them even bring, I don't know, specific lines to put into like translations of the stuff. Like when you did it, and then people say, like, I really like translation stuff. When you come to the project that bilingual or multiple languages, they start bringing severe critical bugs with missing translation. Like how you can even start doing in user stories if you assess against things that are not even defined in the beginning. Then you start defining this stuff. When defining this one, yeah, you now know everything that you need to do. Why need to use story points? When you have nothing to do, then you have to define things, and your team as a team, not just backend, frontend, UI, UX design, and other stuff should work on this stuff. Yeah, everyone knows what they need to do from this particular part. If they don't, like how they can even estimate things? They can see, okay, this is complex or simple or medium somewhere. Then they can bring the story points as a team, and these story points apply for the whole team. So it was funny when, let's say, a story becomes backend only, and automated QA brings their vision how many stories it will take. Okay, we also need to understand it. Maybe some tests will be written, but then we realize like maybe it's not always correlated with the real number, right? But if we think about the not my work, but the whole stuff, we will think about it only when the problem is defined. That's that's why I want to work on the Scrum with informal user stories, to work with story points and don't spend too much time in estimation and other stuff. Advanced model. It is applicable only before the project starts, because, or like from time to time, it is quite big overhead, for sure. You saw this critical chain estimation. I found the only one with the T-shirt, because the other stuff I haven't bring anything close to that. I put it into like sprints, and it was a table. That's where I put, okay, this one goes there, there, there. I try to fit it like, okay, we will finish in 15 sprints. Yep. And you can manage it, and it will help you to, let's say, see this pace and how the deadline moves, and you can communicate it. Sure, but you may not do it properly every time. It's too heavy. This brings us to the initial phrase that was like somewhere in the beginning. How it is connected to IT sphere and information technology itself? You may wonder, but there is one particular thing is in software architecture that the main question is, it should be streaming or batching. Why we do batching? Because we want to do things in maximum efficiency with maximum throughput, but with lower latency. We plan things and we go Scrum because we want to utilize our resources as much as possible. That's why we want to utilize our resources through the timeline, our MVP. That's why real-time Kanban approach cannot give you answer when we finish it. It's obvious because they do not estimate things. But when we come to the lower scope, when we want to work with iterations, it depends on the work you do. If you work with continuous integration approach, from my point of view, I really love to work with real Kanban, because you don't need to estimate this stuff here, because people understand how to work with each other. They can switch from one task to another less. It doesn't guarantee you the maximum efficiency utilization of resources, of course, but you spend less time on meeting, less time on things that you may forget about, right? Scrum tends to require for you to get more sprint candidates before you plan things. That means that people need to read more before they plan. It means that they read, estimate things, and then start implementing them 2-3 sprints later. They need to read it again, so it's waste. It's clear from lean software development named relearning. In Kanban, it doesn't exist. You take it, you did it. That's why estimation is quite needed for the long running, for the budget, for the scope planning, but it's connected tightly with when you plan things in iteration, because you can take the same process. And then you can say, okay, we estimated in 24 ideal man hours those days. What changed? Like you're saying, like it's now 32. Okay, and then you can say, okay, those times we didn't understand this one, this one, this one, and this one. How come? Because this particular conversation happened, because you changed requirements, and so on and so on. You know, your changes in your estimation is traceable. If you're not doing stuff, okay, you may be managing it the other way. But when you try to deal with ideal man hours or days in scope MVP planning, and then story points within the sprint, these things are not connected. They shouldn't. If somebody say like one story point is the task I can do in one day, this is strange. Solution for the cases. If I want to estimate task and iteration backlog, first of all, I need to ask myself if I understand it correctly or not. Otherwise, I cannot say how many hours I will spend working on that in front of my computer. So how much time I will coding or writing, I don't know, designing test cases, also kind of coding, but for human. If I want to estimate a product backlog item, I need to bring everyone here who will work on this product backlog item, maybe a bit more, because people, I don't want to deal with bus factor if one person got sick, so I need to have somebody else to work on the same stuff instead of him. And they need to ask questions, right? So they need to decompose it and then estimate from the, like using the first line here. If I need to estimate one team backlog for the next quarter, what I do is I take leads, and we're trying to understand what feature each feature in backlog is meant to, and we use expert here approach, because not everyone votes for the estimation, right? So they need to understand how many, again, ideal man hours will take for the average person, and the average person I tend to take as a senior one. How much time the senior will take to implement it, it will help, because they don't need to map this person will do or that one. Also, we do not say that it is quite accurate, because the main reason for quota planning is understand what can fit or what cannot, and the difference, like if we doesn't fit a bit, it can be done with like changes scope. This is tactical things that should be done, but this one is more strategical. We just need to understand the approximate amount of task, because the fail always have lots of fails here within this such planning. Lots of things is not done properly. Then we can, if you estimate on MVP scope, this is where I mostly try to analyze critical chains and risks, because when we do like MVP planning, we not always have all things analyzed. If we tend to convert Scrum into Scrum-Ban, which I mostly recommend always, we do business analysis only just before we start implementing things. So it means that features are not analyzed if you do it properly. Or otherwise, I don't know, business analyst will forget everything once when team approached him or her. When estimate full scope, I then tend to use T-shirt because it is really hard to give this overview to leads what has to be done. It's more or less like how big it is, like just your experience here. And there's also dependencies, lots of them. It's really hard to say, share the same amount of skills you have. But let's say 2 or 3 people, you can brainstorm. You can play with your product owner. This is also really, really helpful for them to understand. And then you make it even like a Gantt chart, because, you know, if you have a security test is additional thing that you need to plan after everything is done. It cannot be done every sprint or every I don't know, minor release. That's what also help you to build the product roadmap, and like from the marketing perspective, what has to be bring first or second. Yeah, you may help customer to work on the product. Yep, connections. How it is connected with the other techniques I use in my life here. Project roadmap management. This is the stuff that helps like do some product owner work when you put down everything that you need to address, not done, but address. Then you can map it to like some timeline. For sure, you need to do estimation stuff, like critical chains come from that stuff. Technical design that helps you to transform informal or at least formal backlog item to things that can be estimated, because we need to answer questions what it is. It differs from grooming, because grooming, you bring everyone to this session, you spend maybe not so much time, but everyone is involved, it's too expensive. If you have one person who can start asking questions, you may reduce this cost a lot. Technical debt management. Of course, if you need estimating things, you should estimate like technical debt the other way. Like let's say when you approach it, when you need to work on it, only at that moment of time, you may find the previous meetup with me related to this technical debt management estimation. I suppose I mentioned estimation there, but not this technique in depth. Teamless agile. This is kind of thing that I did twice. Brings the idea of the feature lead, the person who drives implementation of one feature from end to end. It shouldn't be one lead, or let's say project manager, or anyone who do this, but this one allows you to increase amount of people, developers in your team to much higher rate. Oh, yep, this one. This is skill tree, also related to things that I can tell a bit more. In blue, this is exists material. In gray, this is something that I can work on. So you may expect these things come. And I want to thank you for your time. And I will get back to this part. I strongly recommend you to scan this QR code and leave your feedback for our company, so we can optimize our work related to meetups. Please do it. I was kindly asked to ask you kindly. And I'm a lazy person. That's why I brought this cheat sheet in the end, so you can ask questions. Thank you too. Yep. By the way, in advanced part, there was lots of things. So I maybe recommend if you can try to like name 1 or 2 parts of that, so we can discuss it in depth without slides. I can bring more information about that as well. They are here, 5 of them. Any votes?
I want to understand that load chart. Actually, I still not getting this roadmap and load profile, critical chains properly.
Okay.
I just want to understand a couple of things.
Yep, sure. As I said, it deserves a separate meetup, but I will try to cover it.
Just the chart which you showed.
Sure. No problem.
What's first, what's second? What comes from what?
Originally, it is attempt to build a presentation for the higher managers, where we put epics to these squares in the table. And
Level 1, right?
Yep.
Which is okay, clear. The question now is, for example, the violet dashboards in February takes 2 sprints, while admin console, also violet, takes 1 sprint.
Yep, sure.
Why, if they are
Okay, you got me. This is not t-shirt. This is advanced t-shirt that I evolved a bit. So I estimate them not just by size, but how many sprints it will take. So this kind of in first March admin console. This is
duration, right?
this is 1 Excel, but dashboards in February is 2 Excel. So I try to estimate estimation time arrival as well, because we cannot fit it somehow. Or even, let's say, I may put all reports into one thing, but reports is the thing that you need to show reports, get feedback, show reports, get feedback. It is like thing that you need to do it one by one. And maybe in the beginning, you need to build a core for reports. That also take time for you to build this component. That's why it's really long, rather than 1 Excel in 2 sprints.
All right. Then what goes next? Load profile is calculated next, or load profile was first thing, and it basically helped you to build the above thing?
I built it later. So first I use my common sense when I put these squares, and then I calculate it, and then I says, okay, this is trouble.
So the price of each cell is different, right? The weight is different.
Yep, depending on color.
Okay.
So I assign specific numbers for different colors for as a S, M, L, XL. Yellow, green, blue, and violet.
And you have some numeric representation of this color.
Yep, specific for the team, for sure, because I've already worked in the team. It was kind of 1/3 of the, how many? Yep, they already worked 3 months before that. So I understood how the base of the team.
And for example, event calendar went to May. Why couldn't you do it in March?
Because we do other stuff in March, and this thing is doesn't block anything. Everything that doesn't that is nobody depends on that goes to that part. So we start with the crucial one. That's where critical chain matters.
So the chain logic is also here.
Yep. Yeah. That's crucial thing, because when you, let's say, ministry employee, we need to start doing from the beginning, because otherwise you cannot do other stuff, right? So it relates to assign approval training provider relates to the training provider settings, let's say, right? So they are connected. We need to finish one, and then we need to work on other stuff.
Okay, but now to use this load profile, what's the maximum number we should avoid reaching?
It depends on your understanding how much things. So you need to select yourself what is applicable. So it's the same. It is expected team capacity. If you can do this, you do it. If you cannot, you simply should make it longer. Yeah. And play with squares again. Yep. Yes, that's what actually I did. I was asked to fit it more, and I said, okay, we need more people.
Right. Okay.
Sure. Yep. I think I will get back to this black slide for you to give more feedback. If you haven't, it will take time, because clicker doesn't respond too fast. And thank you for your questions, being here again. Yeah. So we stop. what about the oh, this is about time.